Broadcasting live from the Mana Confluence on the plane of generic Commander Precon reprint. This is TapTapConcede. Hello, everyone, and welcome. This week, I'm Kathleen, and joining me is Wheeler.
Thank you for having me, Kathleen. It's great to be here.
It may be great for you, but for viewers who are watching this, please be aware that I am wearing sunglasses because I'm just getting over having a migraine and have a blanket on my lap because it's cold in the office. So, actually, I'm fairly comfortable right now.
Glad of it, yeah.
This is good. And before we get any further, I just want to say thank you so much for your fine support. We could not do this podcast without you over at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. You're the reason I get to wear a pair of sunglasses and a big old blanket on stream or while we're recording today. And also Card Kingdom. You can't get my sunglasses or blanket there, but you could get a variety of cards. CardKingdom.com. Say Loading Ready Run sent me, button please, and they'll send you a button. Which, if nothing else, will say Card Kingdom, a kingdom of cards, but maybe something else.
Ooh.
We'll see. All right. This week, with all our business out of the way, this week's topic is Mom lore. There's a lot of Easter egg references in Mom, and we wanted to bring them all to you. I was going to do some research too, but this is like 99.9% Wheeler because I aforementioned headache, blah, blah. So first up, going in our list, we have Asgol, which is a plane. Ooh, yes, the invasion of Asgol. Ooh. But where is Asgol? Wheeler, take it away.
So Asgol was originally depicted on a Plane Chase 2012 card called the Lair of Ashen Idol. It's a plane with at the beginning of your upkeep, sack a creature if you can't planeswalk, and when you roll chaos, any number of target players make 2/2 zombie. So it's a dark and volcanic plane that is covered in ash from this massive spewing volcano, presumably where people go and sacrifice to the idol.
Right, that's because that's on volcanic spite too, isn't it, in the flavor text?
Yeah.
It's like the Phyrexian don't know they're supposed to make a sacrifice, and then so it's getting zapped.
Yes, yeah, it's a long line in a series of these invasions where the Phyrexians are, well, in this case, I guess, melted by their hubris.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty great. There's not much told about this one in particular. Same with a couple of the other planes that we have, but it's a cool one that I like it as a plane for just little bits and pieces like this. I think it's pretty hard to do like an entire set on this very dark and kind of brutal world. But as hey, check it out. We throw zombies and or Phyrexians into here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice little touch.
My headcanon is that Elish Norn didn't plan to invade like every single, like even these kind of like weird planes all at once. But then with like Nissa, Nissa was able to like steer Realmbreaker. So Nissa was like, oh yeah, I can make it connect to like every plane on the multiverse.
Yeah.
And Norn was like, I'm so smart.
It was
all of them all at once.
It was cheaper to just get every plane, even if they know that they're probably not going to use some of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Who needs
There's a shipping discount.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Speaking of planes that are from Plane Chase, many of the sort of deep cut planes are Plane Chase planes. Yeah. But tell me about Belanon.
So Belanon, on Invasion of Belanon, is a plane that was originally depicted in two separate planes from Plane Just 2012. From 2012, not 2012. We're not there yet.
The year 2012.
Time is a sure thing. Depicted on Wind-Riddle Palaces and the Edge of Malakol. We have Wind-Riddle Palaces. That's a heck of a word to say on screen right now.
Oh, I can see like sort of the fancy Belanon in inspiration there, right? It's got all like this filigree stuff going on.
Yeah, so my notes here say that the palaces here depict large filigree spires with blue skies and green pastures. But that is not really visually connected to the other plane chase card, the Edge of Malakol, which is just a kind of an achromatic setting that when I look at it, this reminds me of original Mirrodin. It's like if they did original Mirrodin in 2012. I mean, I guess they did kind of go back to Mirrodin in 2012, but
Yeah, when was Scars at Mirrodin?
2011 to 2012. I guess. We do have some notes, though. Belladon is an animal humanoid plane.
Ooh.
So all the creatures, which again, this may be also kind of disputes, but at least this is what Morrow said, and this is what Morrow said recently. So there's some, for a plane like this, when they pulled it as a deep cut, they're like, well, what are we doing with this? We want to start giving some actual identity to the plane. Animal humanoid, not hybrids. There's animal humanoids, the anthropomorphized versions of animals. So like Loxodon, the elephants, Rox, the rhinos, and Avon, bird people. So judging for this, there's no actual animals, at least ones that are on all fours, contrary to the animal that is on all fours in this art right.
Can we get the backside of the invasion of Bellanon, please, James? Because it turns into the Bellanon war anthem. And then you can see an elephant person and maybe a Rox? I don't know. This is like, there you go. You can see those elephant people in the background, and there's rocks there and stuff like that.
Got a bird.
This is the Bebop and Rocksteady plane.
Yeah, so the winds are kind of important. Again, we don't know too much. The sacred winds, which I'm looking at the artwork for the Wind Riddle Palace, which, I mean, it has wind in its name, and also the construction of it looks like it allows for some kind of airflow through the tower.
Oh, I hate that.
A nice brisk tower. Gotta love it.
Great. Well, there we go. Now we've known a little bit more about Bellanon. Speaking of old cards, I've really only got so many transitions here, but tell me about Urgamon.
So Urgamon is kind of this is a real deep cut. This is a cool one right here. So on a card, Urgamon was originally depicted on, guess what? Another Plane Chase card from Plane Chase 2012 called the Truga Jungle. Got a very lush jungle there. Is this the one that is extremely annoying? No.
Whenever you roll Chaos, reveal the top 3 cards of your library. Put all land cards revealed this way into your hand, the rest on the bottom of your library.
Yeah.
No, that's actually, on all lands are any color. This is an extremely fun play.
Yeah, that's great.
We love Truga Jungle.
We here at LRR love Truga Jungle, and we hope you do too. So this is the first time it's depicted. However, the first time that Urgamon is mentioned goes all the way back to 1994.
What?
In the Magic the Gathering Pocket Player's Guide. So I believe it was released with Revised, I want to say. But the Pocket Player's Guide is this little book that would come with like what was effectively like starter decks at the time, or you could buy them as like almost a gift box. I was 3 years old. I don't know, and I couldn't even find too much information on how you got the Pocket Player's Guide, but I did, thanks to the lovely Internet Archive. I was able to rent the Pocket Player's Guide and read through it.
Archive.org is a great service.
Gotta love it.
I give them money every year, so should you.
I pay WinRAR. That's not true, but I got James to laugh. So in the Pocket Player's Guide, there is a section. The guide itself is actually written by Richard Garfield.
Ooh.
And there is a section called The World of Dominia, which is written by Richard Garfield. Dominia being different from Dominaria. Dominia was kind of the, I don't know, what do you want to call it? Like the original kind of multiverse naming, kind of like Pangea-ish for Magic. And there was, in addition to that, there was a little story where Richard Garfield speculates on the nature of the multiverse in which Magic is set.
Ooh.
And the short story is called Rorica's Tale, that begins with a paragraph on Urgamon.
What?
Yeah, it's Urgamon is described as a small hidden plane and as having colossal peaks and exotic fauna, mountains, ravines, and trickling streams. And I like this, a plain filled with wild animals, though no bears.
Surek and Gorklora are disappointed.
Yeah, it's don't know why they really needed to specify the bear part. Well, I guess maybe it's a character trait for who is Rorica is like they were the familiar for what other wizard is there traveling on Ergamon. It's you can't see it because I'm covered by this plane and likely will be for a majority of this podcast. But yeah, it's a lot. It's very 1994. I will say that reading through it. It's very that era of fiction.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there you go. There's the surprisingly deep history of Ergamon. And I'd say, like, honestly, it sounds like they sent that description to Jim Nelson, and he's like, all right, mountains and ravines, check. Exotic fauna, check.
Got it.
All right, yeah, Ergamon, depicted. Speaking of depicting planes, let's go to a plane that's maybe not from Plane Chase, but is a plane that people have been excited to see depicted. It's Gobakon, which is, of course, Teo's home plane.
Yeah, so Gobakon, we know about Teo and his like light shield magic. There's a more particular term for the magic that they use. I think it's just shield magic. Mm-hmm. But when Teo first popped up in War of the Spark, there are some cards. I mean, Teo has his own card, and he was involved in the story somewhat.
He had a bigger role in the book, which we don't really talk about.
Understandably so. But Gobakon is also depicted on a plane from the March the Machine Commander set, where they have some of the new planes featured as the Western Cloud. Ooh. So as you can kind of tell from this image, but I'll describe it, don't worry. Much of the landscape of Gobakon consists of some sand dunes and more sand, and then rocks covered by sand. Not a lot to work with there, but the plane has settlements. Like people exist on this plane. They've found a way to live, even though it also experiences some pretty harsh diamond storms, which are pretty deadly. And I believe they proved to be kind of deadly. It's another part of the Phyrexians showing up.
And being like, oh, we did zero research.
Yeah.
Who would have thunk?
Oh, I didn't pack an umbrella sort of reaction. But the people, the inhabitants, they kind of rely on this sect of monks known as the Order of the Shield Mage to protect them from the diamond storms. And Teo was a member of the Order of the Shield Mage. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's also, you can see Infected Defector has the flavor text where they're like, the diamond storms of Gobakon hampered Phyrexia's progress until they recruited some of the local shield mages. So there you go.
Oh, no.
There you go. That's
recruited.
That's Gobakon. Sandy desert, probably a good place to go pod racing, I suppose.
Yeah. That'd be a great place to go pod racing. Magic needs more pod racing, you know.
All right. Get a note to Mark Rosewater. So speaking of, all right, going back to, we're just going in alphabetical order here. Karsus is another one of those deep cut planes. The Invasion of Karsus. I really like this card just in limited because 3 damage to each creature and each planeswalker is pretty easy to get outside of if you're playing red-green. So
yeah. I've had not a lot. I've had a couple of matches where I have a creature that is bigger than 3 toughness. Mm-hmm. My opponents do not.
Yeah.
I play this card. They no longer have creatures, and then I get to immediately attack my battle.
Yeah, and then when you flip it, it becomes, what is it, the Karsus Depth Guard? No, that's just another card in the set. It becomes
Refraction Elemental.
Oh yes, Refraction Elemental, because of course Karthus is what, like a crystal plane?
Yeah, it's all about that crystal. It's originally depicted. So Karthus was originally depicted on Mirrored Depths, which is another plane chase plane. See everybody. This one's kind of funny because it wasn't even released in the plane chase product, or as a set. It was a promo.
Oh, yeah, I see it. It says like DCI.
Mm-hmm. I want to say it was World Wake that you pick this up. It was like a promo released around World Wake.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, and we have the mirrored depths, and you can see just a whole bunch of crystals. It's all crystals all the time here. The plane is formed from crystals, and these crystals hold refractional properties that hurt both invading creatures and planeswalkers. You can see that on this card itself, the ability is whenever a player casts a spell, that player flips a coin. If they lose the flip, they counter that spell.
Oof.
And then when you chaos, a player reveals the top card of their deck, and if it's a non-land card, you can cast it for free. Except then it still just could get countered by the plane.
Right. So it's hard to do magic in here.
It's hard to do anything that's productive except, I mean, if you are one of the elementals on the plane that is created, that has come from these crystals, they're pretty good.
What does the refraction elemental do again?
So it's a 4/4 with ward pay 2 life. And whenever you cast a spell, it deals 2 damage to each opponent.
I love that as a callback to what the Plane Chase plane does, without being quite so frustrating.
Yeah, it's I think that a lot of the Plane Chase cards originally, I mean, for the gameplay, they are really feast or famine. Which can lead to some cool moments in playing with them, but can also lead to some stinkers. And then when you're trying to modernize that, you don't exactly want something that just says, hey, if everybody gets unlucky, you can't play Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
Like, that's not great.
No more spells for you.
And then also just like the planes are kind of, this is the crystal plane. It's the plane with all the crystals. Here, if you go there, you'll find crystals. Or, yeah, it's like you said with Urgamon, right? They just read that description. They're like, okay, got it. Mountain, valley, lush, exotic fauna. Great. We're done.
Paching.
And so
Check, please.
these invasions kind of let them expand on them a bit, and also helps ideally will help differentiate them from other planes that have received like a full set release that feel like they've kind of picked and borrowed from some of them. Like Ikoria, right? If you took Karsus and Urgamon, and you had this big, lush valley, canyon, exotic fauna, and then smoosh it with crystals, we're probably getting closer to Ikoria.
Right, yes. Yeah. Well, interestingly enough, here's a very old plane that I didn't realize had such a deep backstory, speaking of being fleshed out. Tell me about Moag.
So Moag's kind of funny. This is another plane that was originally depicted on a card called Fields of Summer from Plane Chase, which is idyllic, right? Just beautiful fields, flowers, trees.
You get to gain life.
You get to gain a bunch of life.
Nice place.
Allergies be damned. I'd love to go in there and just take a big breath. Just a...
yeah, Papa reacting and planes walk here.
Yeah. So it was originally depicted in the set from the original Plane Chase as well, not from the 2012 release. But it was first mentioned in the novel from 1998, Planeswalker. So this novel was a sequel to the novel The Brothers' War.
Yes, because Urza's the Planeswalker then in that book, right?
Yes. Yep. And so Urza and Zancha are trying to escape the Phyrexians in that novel. And they're unable to return to Dominaria at the time. And so they're trying to find, a plane to go and rest or recruit help, rally the citizens of this plane. And Moag is one of the planes that they do escape to. It's described as a backwater plane. It's a hospitable world with abundant rich soil, a broad swath of temperate climates, and a wealth of vigorous cultures. And so they went there. Urza tried to rally its populace against the Phyrexians, failed, and then was like, oops, I'm out. And then the Phyrexians attacked Moag at that time.
Jeez.
And so, but I have some maybe good news, because Moag is around still, right?
Yeah, and not particularly Phyrexian. They're being reattacked.
Right. They survived. And this is actually called back on the flavor text of Timberland Ancient, a card from Mom that says, only the trees were old enough to remember what happened when Moag ignored warnings of Phyrexia millennia ago. They were determined not to repeat the mistake.
Oh, I love these super deep lore cuts as you get expressed in flavor text. What a great callback to the novel.
Yeah. Yeah, this is exactly, and to have it represented by, well, this is a tree folk. It's lived basically forever.
Yep.
It remembers and then can be like, no. This time we're fighting.
Yeah. Oh, I remember these. Oh, these
jerks.
Assholes are back.
Yeah.
And this time they brought bits from the sky? No.
Not happening.
No. And I think the backside of Invasion, I mean, I like Invasion of Moag, but it's always been a bit slow for me in Mom Draft. And I don't know why. It seems like it should be able to really pop off. But...
I gotta tell you, I've done maybe 10 to 15 drafts of this format. I've yet to see it. There are just still cards I've yet to find, which is a shame because I like the flip side of it, right? It turns into some dryads.
4 mana, you get a counter on each creature you control. That seems great, even if you never flip it over. The dryads are at the beginning of your end step. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control.
Against the implacable. Oh my god! I've done one of those things where I've never read this word aloud, and then I'm like, oh no! Will of Phyrexia, the Dryads of Moag raised the shield of living summer.
Oh, you had another callback to Fields of Summer.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, mwah.
Oh, I love it. Ooh,
good job, team.
The payoffs.
Oh, I love it.
The payoffs.
A+ work. All right, Maraganda.
Yeah.
Maraganda, I described somewhat glibly as the dinosaur plane, but not the Ixalan dinosaur plane. The Ixalan dinosaurs are quite civilized and have, rich, stuff going on. This is more like primordial dinosaurs, right?
This is a prehistoric plane.
Right.
Whereas Ixalan
just has dinosaurs.
Yeah. Basically, Ixalan just things, there hasn't been something to get rid of the dinosaurs. But, civilizations have...
Yeah, these are not cave dinosaurs on Ixalan. They do tea.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the invasion of Maraganda and Maraganda itself has been around for a hot minute. It was first referenced in 2 cards from Future Sight. The first one is Imperiosaur, which is, it's a big dino from a time where we didn't have a lot of dinosaurs.
Mm-hmm. I recall people were excited about this when it came. Yeah, creature type dinosaur, right?
It was a big deal. One of the few dinosaurs before this was from an unset. It was Old Fogey. So it was dinosaurs were kind of just like, I think there was a couple before, but it was mostly just a joke, right? Like a haha, look at this. And so an ancient powerful force has overtaken the valley. I sympathize for its inhabitants, but I rejoice for the land itself. Olanti Muraganda Druid. So there are people and elves that live on Muraganda. It's very druidic or shamanistic, and we haven't really seen much civilization being built. But there's probably more iconically, there's Muraganda petroglyphs, which Imperiosaur says you can only cast it if you have basic lands. Muraganda petroglyph says creatures with no abilities get +2/+2, which is very cool and good.
Right. They put this is such a good, clean card description. They put it on Patriot and Marvel Snap.
Yeah. Yes. I'll agree with you. And so the whole no abilities is actually reflected on the flip side of Invasion of Muraganda, where it turns into some kind of ooze. I forget its exact...
Primordial ooze.
Is it just primordial? No, primordial ooze is from Legends. Surely.
Oh, primordial plasm. Sorry.
No, don't worry about it. Sorry, my brain is on like turbo lore right now and deep cuts, and so if anything is like mentioned like that, I'm like, no, that was the pre-designed name for this card that it, yada. But so primordial plasm only mentions losing all abilities until end of turn.
That's why it does that.
And gives +2/+2, not unlike the petroglyphs.
Oh, that's so clever.
And there's another iconic ooze from Muraganda.
Oh, yeah?
Which is the mimeoplasm.
Yes.
I forget which year of Commander. Is it the original Commander? But the mimeoplasm, big ooze with a dinosaur for a hand.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Which is something that I actually didn't connect until I started compiling a lot of this information. I didn't know, but I guess it makes sense.
So, and there's one more Muruganda callback in Mom. There's a card called Ancient Imperiosaur, which is just the updated Imperiosaur. There it is. It's still there. It is mad now. And it's evolved a bit. It's now it costs 7 mana, but it's a 6/6 with Trample and Ward 2 and Convoke.
It's so big.
Yeah, it's mad. It does not like these Phyrexians.
I do like that this card, like when you look at it, if you're the kind of player that wants to, brew and is excited to like make the most out of these kind of cards, your first thought is, oh, what if I just play this by convoking 7 creatures? Right? That's huge. And so it kind of has this, it's a very tenuous link, but it has this kind of link to Imperiosaur of like, Imperiosaur says only basic lands, and when you might not even use mana to cast it. So it's, Imperiosaur is a reduction for no non-basics, only basics. And this one is no mana, only creatures. I think that's neat.
I think that's very neat as well. All right. Once again, back into the originally depicted in Future Sight, Pyrulia.
Ooh.
So tell me about Pyrulia.
So Pyrulia, beautiful plane. This is some of my favorite. The Invasion of Pyrulia, this art, first and foremost, is some of my favorite art in the set. And the cards that mention and depict Pyrulia originally are also pretty gorgeous art. So it was originally depicted on Horizon Canopy and Edge of Autumn from Future Sight. And so you could see these gigantic leaves, basically, and humanoid figures for scale there. Pyrulia, so originally depicted here, but it was also first mentioned in a book. The novel The Thran from 1999, and The Thran is like that's the beginning.
Yeah, it's the precursor novels to like all this Brothers War stuff, because the Thran were the people who came up with all of these Power Stone things. That's where Yawgmoth got his start.
He was just a doctor back then.
Yeah, he was just doctor. He wasn't like, horrible guy appearing in a Phyrexian arena, offering nasty choices to, Gerard Capucin. He'd just somebody you'd go see if you had a cough.
Yeah, he was just a horrible guy coming into your house to be like, oh, you'll get better, don't worry.
Yeah. Don't worry about your Power Stone poisoning. I'm sure it's fine.
And so it was mentioned in that novel, The Thran, where Yawgmoth was escorted to the plane by Dyfed. And Dyfed was, I believe Dyfed was looking to kind of like display their power and their ability. And it was just one of the planes where they're like, see what I can do?
And Yawgmoth was like, I could conquer this. File that thought away for later.
Hey, I can make this better.
Yeah.
So Pyrulia is a densely forested sphere around a central star. The structure of the plane is not unlike a Dyson sphere. So you have the star and then basically everything surrounding it, which is kind of cool and good. Google Dyson sphere if you're not familiar, and just picture a bunch of leaves and large trees floating around this. And then described in the book, in every direction, a vast rainforest. Millennial trees trailed nets of vine and moss hundreds of feet down to wet undergrowth.
Cool plane.
Also worth mentioning, it was featured on the plane chase card Horizon Boughs.
Oh, there it is with the giant leaves that release the sweet and spicy scent. Wow, that's just like a visual callback to the other thing, isn't it?
It's like it's extended art of Horizon Canopy almost.
Yeah. And you can see the curvature.
And it was actually another card that was a promo. The plane chase card was not featured in the plane chase set itself, but an additional promo.
Very cool. All right. Tell me about Regatha.
I've got notes. So Regatha was originally depicted on the card Mount Coralia, which is from Plane Chase 2012. I did it again. 2012. Plane Chase 2012. It is a highly volcanic plane with Hellion and elemental fire cats calling it its home. Regathan Firecat being a card that, well, is
It's a
from
card?
Regatha. It's a card.
Yeah, that just showed up randomly in M14.
Yep. Alongside, and then after, it's in Magic Origins. Apologies to James because I didn't give him the art, but it's Ember Maw Hellion is another card that is from Regatha.
Oh, I missed that one.
There are a couple of other cards that mention it too, so apologies to James because Abbot of Carol Keep and Carol Keep Disciples, I think are their names, also from Regatha. Both Chandra and Jaya at some point in time in their lives, R.I.P.
Yes, have gone to Regatha because it's the fire bending plane essentially.
Yes, but wait, there are more planeswalkers that have gone to Regatha. So Regatha is known for a magical phenomenon called the Purifying Flame, which is a magical fire of white mana that burns cool. It probes the soul of whoever enters the fire for their sins, and it has the strength to destroy any mortal being or to drain all power from a planeswalker, including their ability to planeswalk.
Oh, so don't go in there if you're a jerk, I guess.
Yes. It is the source of power, this eternal, the Purifying Flame. It's a source of power for the Order of Heliod, Heliud.
Very close to Heliod.
Which is a religious organization that seeks to bring law to the plane through hieromancy. So the magic of law and binding, which you might remember is what Gideon used. And in fact, the Order themselves and the Flame caught the attention of Gideon Jura, who actually went to that plane and worked with them.
Oh, I wonder if he was like, hey, this is like Heliod back on my home plane.
Yeah.
Except you guys are actually good and just, and Heliod's kind of a jerk.
I haven't read the material with Gideon because he ends up I don't know how good the Order is.
No.
I think they may have
also been bad.
Yeah, they tried to get him to kill Chandra or something, and then he was just like, I don't know if I should be doing this.
Well, if you could give us some more information on the Order of Heliod, do that in the comments below and let us know. We might even read them this time because, might be something I want to hear about. So,
I read the comments every time, much to the chagrin of my doctors and mental health professionals in my life.
Yeah, I just try not to because I just fixate on things. Speaking of things I'm fixated on, a plane I insist on seeing. I got tagged as something is oh, Kathleen should do something about this. And it's I would love to write about this, but I can't think of anything good. Aside from, Skrell stepped in a puddle. It's the plane of Segovia. Mm-hmm. So I love Segovia because it's the plane where everything is wee.
Everything is so tiny. You can on the card itself, you can see just a boot kind of
it's like
down.
one Phyrexian foot coming down into the middle of the vast Segovian Ocean.
Mm-hmm. And the Krakens that are made are just 1/1s with trample. And even after you complete this battle, Invasion of Segovia turns into Kaistos, I think is the pronunciation.
Yes.
Kaistos, if we're going by...
it's tripping the Phyrexian. I love this.
Yeah, and so this is the Sea Tyrant of Segovia, and it's just a 3/3. So Segovia, originally referenced on Segovian Leviathan from Legends, that is just a 5-mana 3/3 with Island Walk and a Bible quote for flavor text. It is seen Leviathans were the biggest creatures in Magic at the time. Mm-hmm. Leviathan itself from, I guess, the Dark, which came after, but they were huge. That the sea monsters were supposed to be the biggest things in the game, basically. And this was a 3/3. And so this kind of came a joke internally.
It was too small to be a proper Leviathan.
Yeah, and that everything on Segovia is miniature. Mm-hmm. So it's a plane where everything exists in miniature. And when planeswalkers go to Segovia, they shrink down. It's a 1/100 scale, is what the wiki says.
So cute.
Yeah, very tiny. So Segovia was first depicted, the plane itself depicted, I guess this technically depicts the plane, on the Hippodrome. The Hippodrome. I almost said Hippowdon, different game. The Hippodrome. It's a plane from Plane Chase itself that says all creatures get -5, -0. And whenever you roll chaos, you destroy target creature if its power is 0 or less.
Ooh.
I have one quote here from Nicol Bolas, where while the plane itself, as we saw on the Hippodrome, is not entirely submerged, it's not all underwater, and as depicted in Segovian Angel, which is a 1-mana 1/1 flying vigilance.
There's the Hippodrome in the background.
Exactly, yeah. Nicol Bolas described it as being vastly aquatic, which is just kind of funny to me. Vastly aquatic.
I love the flavor text here. When Wurzel summoned Segovian angels to fight Tomil's Garganticari gnats, the ensuing battle numbered among the multiverse's least destructive. Describing anything as the least blank is always very good. Also, and I will say in the stories, when Vraska goes back to her apartment, when she's like trying to shake off the Phyrexian control because there's still some Vraska rattling around in the back of her mind, she has a little Segovian chariot under a bell jar. That she was like, she apparently described it as like she almost killed herself trying to get it back because it was a full-size chariot on Segovia. But when she planeswalked back to Ravnica, it like fit in the palm of her hand.
It's so cute.
Very funny. All right. Next, another improbable plane. One that, God, everybody in Magic seems thirsty to see more of. It's Xerx.
Yeah. Xerx is a cool plane that uses the letter X twice. So millennials are just hot for it.
Yep.
There's nothing more they want. It was originally depicted in Plane Chase 2012. See, got it there. On Stairs to Infinity. It's an Escher-esque kind of plane with physics bending and kaleidoscopic geometric features, enormous underground passageways, and well, it's just kind of goofy. I mean, the name itself is a palindrome to kind of fit into that theme. It says players have no maximum hand size. Whenever you roll the planar die, you draw a card. And whenever you roll chaos, you reveal the top card of the planar deck and can put it on the bottom of the planar deck. So...
very weird.
Very weird. Very weird indeed.
And people like Xerx because you get things like the Vertex Paladin on the back of the invasion, which is this cool 6-winged angel thing that looks neat. And it's like the literal minded Phyrexian made the greatest mistake possible on Xerx. They tried to understand what they were seeing because, reality bends on this plane. Yeah,
it's interesting to see this angel kind of have a very like seraphim kind of body and like the setting with all the geometry in the background and the 6 wings.
Yeah, biblically accurate plane.
Yeah. Maybe that's why people want it. This plane is just right for the memes.
Yeah.
There's another card called Xerx Strobe Knight. And I mean, this artwork is just great. Just a bunch of shattering glass, which is also presumably the reality. I mean, its name is Strobe Knight. Phyrexia broke the laws of reality to invade the planes. On Xerx, reality merely bent around the invaders.
I'd like to think that the Realmbreaker tendril comes in and like splits into 16 different tendrils, and then like, like in the Superman thing where the bad guys are like pounding on the like glass as they're being like flung across the universe in like 1980s.
Yeah,
it's like that's what happened to any Phyrexians that went to Xerx, and like he's not doing anything. He's just walking around them. He's like, whoa, well, it seems like it sucks for you.
Yeah, tourists.
Yeah. I'd like to think people don't planeswalk to Xerx just because it's very uncomfortable. You immediately get a wedgie.
It's just a lot.
Yeah. All right, and then we come to the part of the podcast. This is the only part that I help with. I like to make sure that I take credit for work I've done and give kudos for work I didn't. Where there's a lot of really like nice references to other cards sprinkled throughout this set. So the first one is Completed Huntmaster, is actually a card from Mom. It's a Lorwyn elf. Is a reference to Lee Solana Huntmaster, which is another Lorwyn elf. And you can see he's got like the same kind of like chest piece there, except now it's a Phyrexian symbol.
Yeah. Yeah, this set. So this set is, I mean, when the last one we did for these cards, we tried to, skip the very obvious direct references. So not cards where it's like, hey, this says Chandra. Did you know Chandra's a planeswalker?
Yeah.
And there's just, I mean, we're going all over the multiverse. So there are a bunch of cards like this where it's just like, hey, remember your friend from Lorwyn? Well, this is what they look like when they're completed.
Yeah, what I like about this is like he's got the dogs in his artwork, and then on completed Huntmaster, there's like some sort of Phyrexian beast behind him.
Yeah, the different things that come out of the incubation eggs too.
Yeah.
And I think it's represented on one of the incubator tokens, because the incubator tokens, there are 3 different versions.
Yeah.
And one of them is this kind of weird looking dog thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Gross. All right, next. I feel like some people have noticed this, but I feel like less people have noticed this than I thought. There's a card called Phyrexian Archivist, which I saw somebody joking. It's like, oh, it's nice that, we have Phyrexians. Maybe this is something that didn't make a cut from a video. I'm recalling this conversation, but I don't recall where I've seen it. But it's like, it's nice that we have Phyrexians who just, I just do paperwork. I'm not really directly involved in it. But of course, this is a direct reference. This is the Cogwork Archivist. This is the same creature. It's just been corrupted. How horrible. All their records. Ooh.
Yeah.
Arcavios has really gone through it.
Yeah, in doing this especially, it's just like, okay, well, this person from there died, and this person's completed.
Yeah.
And this person's died.
There's a lot of people who ended up dying or getting completed in the multiverse.
Yeah.
This is just some personal research that I like doing. I like looking up flavor text because you can search flavor text on Skyfall. The Is It League seem to really like conduits. So there's like, if you look for flavor text conduit, you can see that there's, because Ral on the card, Ral's Reinforcement is like opening up like a pipe there. And it's like, good thing maintenance never got around to decatalyzing the bithermic plasma displacement conduits. So I did a search for that to see if that was a callback to any other kind of like weird flavor text thing.
Yeah.
And there's another flavor text referencing conduits. It's a Ravnican card. It's the only other reference to conduits in flavor text is also on Ravnica. Sure Strike. I pack 3 more electro conduits into each test wand. You'll experience a brief tingling sensation. Hee hee. And then it could be a reference to the fact that Ral's War of the Spark card is Ral, the Storm Conduit. There you go.
He is a conduit.
I like to go back because occasionally you see like references that become real cards later.
Yeah.
So you never know. You always have to check. Anyhow, next we have the Invasion of Dominaria gives you what's mostly a Serra Angel.
Yeah, this one's a pretty straightforward one in that Invasion of Dominaria flips into Serra Faithkeeper, which is it's a 4/4 flying vigilance angel when Serra Angels are all over the place not all over the place, but they're on Dominaria. And in fact, there's, Dominaria and Serra Angel that I think even like the framing on the angel is kind of similar between the 2 cards. This is one of the more shallow kind of pulls, but hey, look, it's Serra Angel. You like Serra Angel, right?
Yeah. Serra briefly appears in the stories to give Elspeth a pep talk.
Yeah.
As I said she would. I'm never letting that go. Speaking of angels, Seraph of New Capenna, which becomes a Seraph of New Phyrexia, as a reference to Fallen Angel.
Yeah, so this is one that I'm willing to have it called out as kind of being a tinfoil hat. But, so Seraph of New Capenna is a 3/3, and it's a flyer that has an ability that when it attacks, you can sacrifice another artifact or another creature or artifact. And if you do, it gets +2/+1. And there's a card originally in Legends that's called Fallen Angel, which is a 3/3 flyer that sacks a creature to give it +2/+1. And that's a pretty tenuous relationship between, like, it's a little flimsy. But there's another card that, apologies, James, it's called Reaper of the Moon Silver from Eldritch Moon or Shadows over Innistrad. I forget which one. I think it's SOI, where it is also a 5 mana 3/3 that when you have Morbid, when you have delirium, it gains the ability to sacrifice creatures and get +2/+1. And so this seems to be something that's popped up a couple of times of when you ever have an angel and it gets, corrupted or fallen or twisted in some way. It turns into a 3/3 flyer that can sack a creature, or in this case, creature artifact, to get +2/+1.
I do like the Seraph of New Capenna in this set because I just think flyers are very good in this draft format.
Yeah, I like attacking with something that my opponent can't block with.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pick up, or pick up a couple flyers. That's my advice. Oh, here's something. I don't know why I didn't think about this. Eyes of Gitaxias mentions Ekin. Tell me about this.
So it says, no longer bound by the myopic limitations of flesh, Ekin would truly see the realms. So Ekin is referenced on the Hengegate pathway / Mistgate pathway, the double-faced modal card land, or double-faced land from Kaldheim, with Flavor Text saying, I cannot read these runes, yet somehow they seem like a warning. Have we passed unknowingly into a new realm? Ekin Omen Seeker Navigator. The Omen Seekers are one of the 5 human clans on Kaldheim, or on Bredagard in Kaldheim, because Kaldheim just has a whole bunch of stuff.
Kaldheim has 10 realms.
Yeah.
And then they're all, and then not humans don't live anyhow. Yeah. Getting into the weeds here.
Yeah, Kaldheim lore is not something that I'm super well versed in, and so I did spend, while trying to figure this out, I was like, oh my god, Omen Seeker, that's what Cosima turns into. Like Cosima, the double that turns into the vehicle, but that's Omen Keel. And I didn't need to share that, but I did. It's a moment of vulnerability. How you doing?
Speaking of things that turn into other things, got there. Tarkir Dune Shaper turns into Burnished Doom Stomper. And he references
Bahir,
the Dramoka Mage.
Yeah, so Bahir is a character that pops up in the Tarkir block, but because Tarkir has new timeline, old timeline.
Right.
In the old timeline, in the old timeline, Bahir was known as Bahir Torn of Ear, and was an Einok, so one of the dog warriors, that resented human dominance of the plane, and had planned to actually take over the clan should Surak fall. So if Surak wasn't able to, fulfill the duties, then Bahir was like, I'm doing it. I'm going to become the number one. But in the new timeline, Bahir is now referenced as the Dramoka Mage, and is an Einok master mage of both Sunbringer and Sandbringer traditions. So 2 pretty important things to, I guess, the followers of Dramoka, and is referenced on the card's Resupply from Dragons of Tarkir, as well as Self-Inflicted Wound, also from Dragons of Tarkir. Yeah, there's just a lot. No reference on cards from the old timeline, just the new timeline.
Speaking of an old timeline, let's reference some old stories. This is Jace's origin story from Magic Origins 2015, where we get to find a little bit about Jace's background. You find out he's from Vryn. And that's one of the places they go, although Jace is not appearing in any of these stories. And we find out that Gav Balerion, who's referenced on the back of Invasion of Vryn as the Overloaded Mage Ring, that's Jace's dad.
Yeah, I wrote Jace's terrible father because reading through this story, The Absent Minds from 2015, the guy's just like kind of a jerk. Very much.
He's like, I'm a blue collar worker, and if you want to get anywhere in life, kid, you're just gonna have to get a good education because you seem real smart. I don't have any emotional vulnerability. I'm gonna go work on the mage rigs.
The first thing he said, he doesn't say it. Jace just like reads his mind or hears his thoughts. In that. It's just like, God, I wish you were normal.
Yeah,
which is just so brutal.
Yeah,
just a jerk.
I mean, in Gav Belarin's defense, you don't typically assume that people can hear your thoughts.
That's true.
That's something that's probably an inside thought.
I do. I assume everyone can understand everything I'm thinking at all times.
I can't even understand what people are thinking, even if they tell it to me. What's the opposite of psychic? Unempathetic. That's it. That's me.
Hey, how about some foxes? So in Mom, we have Etched Familiar, which is a Phyrexian fox.
Yes.
That has an ability that causes someone to gain life, which is you, but it also causes an opponent to lose life.
That's me.
That's you.
Yeah.
And it has flavor text from Kami Curio Vendor that says no refunds. This card is very similar. It's a callback to Filigree Familiar, another 3-mana fox from Kaladesh. But we also have flavor text from Chami Curio Vendor. It's the must-have gift for everyone on your list. Get one for yourself too. And then this is a stretch, sorry James, but there's a card from Kaladesh called Curio Vendor, which may or may not be Chami on the art. It could just be a general curio vendor. There's quite a few of them on Kaladesh, but step right up, try your hand. It'll thrill the senses and boggle the mind. So it's nice. I like it when they have characters just only referenced in flavor text, but it's kind of their dialogue is like consistent, and that's like the tone that they would take. Yeah, it's nice.
All right. So you have next note. We have Hanger Scrounger / Reckless Racer as a mechanical callback.
And that was a bit of a pun. Because this is a creature that when it becomes tapped, you could discard a card. And if you do draw a card, and it's a pilot from Kaladesh, and it's in like a hangar where you would have some vehicles stored and all that. And it's just kind of looking for parts. And then the Reckless Racer is a different pilot. This one's a human, but it also just has the text of when it becomes tapped, you could discard a card, and if you do, draw a card. So they both kind of have that same mechanical overlap there.
I love that. It's a Kaladesh thing, apparently. All right, I'm going to go slightly out of order.
Sure.
I'm going to say, let's talk about Marauding Dreadship quickly. So Marauding Dreadship, I've heard this is actually just good.
Oh, I love this card. Yeah, it just kills people dead.
Okay, I gotta try it.
Yeah.
I've cut it from every deck because I'm like, is it good though?
I was definitely hesitant about it, and then I lost to it once and thought, wow, this sure does kill a battle and also me and leave another
its own
body.
crew.
Yeah.
And it's got haste, so that's powerful.
Yeah. So Marauding Dreadship is, in my opinion, a callback to Dusk Legion Dreadnought. So this is another...
They kind of look the same. Look, there's the thing at the front.
Oh, the amount of time that I spent just looking at the 5 boats from Ixalan trying to be like, does that... What's the front of a boat? Somebody's going to tell me.
The prow.
The prow. Whether the prow lines up, do the sails kind of line up? They both have crew too. They both have 4 power, and they have a very similar prow. And so I was like, yeah, great. And they both have dread in their name.
That's
this
true.
Is a dreadnought, and it just turns into a dread ship.
Yeah.
Because
right.
I guess it loses that the ship qualification.
Yeah, because it's alive now.
Yeah.
And then the last thing we wanted to reference, which is this is I think a very cool callback and possibly relevant for all of you Vorthoses out there for like possible other things that we might be exploring later, is Onaki Javelineer mentions the Chain Veil. Ooh. So we get to see an Onaki there. Onakis are these race of ancient ogres. And they live on Chandalar, which we have the invasion of Chandalar, but it's not really. It's from the video game.
Yeah, there's like the game Chandalar, and then cards from Chandalar have popped up a bit throughout more modern core sets. And I was thinking about including it on this, but all the there's so much information on Chandalar. There was too much to really pull in. People really like it.
People know about Chandalar. We don't need to be covering it in our deep cut episode.
Yeah, it's the TLDR is that it's got some pretty wild magic and mana that is kind of just long, loose, and full of juice, just flying around everywhere, which is potentially explains how can something from Ravnica seep into, like it says, with the ways between worlds thrown about, I guess this is why. With the ways between worlds thrown open, the Chainveil's foul magic seeped from a vault deep within Ravnica all the way to Chandalar's dormant masters.
Right, because the Chainveil is supposed to contain all the magic of the Onaki, right? Which is like this race of like huge magic ogres, essentially.
Yeah.
But they were rude dudes with attitude.
Yeah, there is a card that represents Onaki from Magic Origins, or Magic from M15, which is also where the Chainveil was first introduced.
Yes. So
It's probably nothing.
that's probably nothing. It's probably not another problem for Ravnica to deal with.
No, yeah, it's whatever.
They're fine. Ral invented a machine that would turn oil into explosions.
Good. Great. Sounds good. I'm sure they'll recover swimmingly.
I'm sure that like a super densely populated plane isn't going to have, major trauma.
No.
And probably lots of property destruction. I'm sure they're okay.
Yeah, they're fine.
I'm sure there's parts of Ravnica that are basically untouched because they're not very exciting.
Yeah.
It's a whole city. Like the whole plane's a city. There's got to be parts that are not cool and don't have good coffee shops.
Yeah, it's so big. There's some real you don't need to go there spots.
Yeah, that neighborhood, nothing. Like, it's fine, but, like, why would you go there?
Yeah.
Right?
Your time's better spent going elsewhere.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So, but hey, speaking of time better spent, I can't think of a better way of spending time than learning all about these great lore deep cuts with you, Wheeler. Thank you so much for preparing all this. This was a lot of work that I did not help with at all.
Oh, thank you for having me. It was great to be here, and thank you for being such a trooper through this episode, Kathleen. I appreciate it.
There are certainly a lot of lights that come right from above.
Yeah.
Into the top of one's sunglasses, but we're okay.
Yeah, that was something I learned right after I got my concussion. It was, not most ideal.
We need some sunglasses. We need to have some brimmed hats.
Normalize. Yeah, just give us some very large brimmed hats.
Yeah, like a big sun hat for like doing gardening.
Yeah.
These are the brain ouch hats. All right. Well, if you have a brain ouch, why don't you tell us about it in the chat, as long as you can look at a screen?
Yeah.
We'd love to hear your feedback. Thank you so much for weighing in and engaging with those engagement gods. Why not bongle that dongle if you're interested in getting more updates from the YouTube channel? But also a big thanks to cardkingdom.com. They are a veritable kingdom of card, and they are a kingdom of buttons. So if you make an order from them and you say Loading Ready Run sent me button please, we'll send you a button. What will it say? We don't know, but you'll find out. And of course, your kind support of our Patreon at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. Your money goes to paying our salary. And while we don't have big brain hurty hats, maybe we could put a line item for a thing to buy as a brain hurting hat.
Yeah, I mean, my brain is recovered. But even now that I can do this without sunglasses, I often catch myself going like, I could use sunglasses and a big brimmed hat.
Yeah.
It's just quality of life upgrade.
I think so. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. This has been TapTapConcede. Bye-bye.
Bye.